So here in the UK, not only are we known for our horrendous weather, we're also known for some of the most ridiculous e-bike laws known to man. Now currently in the UK you are allowed an e-bike with a maximum output motor of 250 watts. If you currently own an e-bike with a 250 watt motor, you'll know it's completely pointless. It must be pedal assisted, and the motor can only assist you up to 15.5 mile an hour. However, you are allowed to go faster than 15.5, but the motor cannot assist you up to those speeds. If you have any type of throttle on the bike, this can only assist you up to 4 mile an hour. But it looks like in 2024, things are about to change. Let's jump onto the bike, let's get into it. Okay, so let's break down the current e-bike laws in the UK. So the 250 watt motor. Let's be honest, if you've ever ridden a bike with a 250 watt motor, you'll know that it's pretty pointless. The reason they stipulate a 250 watt motor is that's what the government are saying is an equal output to someone pedaling a normal bike. Now, if that's the case, what is the point in having an e-bike if it's just going to do exactly the same as what you could do on a standard bike? It makes no sense whatsoever. You might be okay on flat surfaces, but as soon as you come to a hill, the bike will pretty much come to a stop. You've then got the part that it can only assist you up to 15.5 miles an hour, but you can then pedal beyond that to reach higher speed. However, the law stipulates that you cannot pedal furiously. How they're going to police that law? Could you imagine standing in court? Okay, why are we here today? Well, this gentleman was caught riding his e-bike furiously. It's just ridiculous. We then move on to the throttle. So you can have a twist throttle, you can have a thumb throttle, but that can only assist you up to 4 miles an hour. Again, completely pointless. And what I really struggle to understand is how come you can pedal up to 15.5 assisted, but the throttle can only assist you to 4. What is the difference there? It just does not make sense at all. If anything, in my eyes, the thumb throttle or the twist throttle is a way safer option than having the pedals. The bike I'm riding at the moment has both pedal assist and a thumb throttle. And I'll be honest, unless I'm on a dead straight road with nothing around me, then I'll use the pedals. From starting the bike to getting up to the 15.5, I will generally use the thumb throttle. It's just a way safer option. You've got much more control, you can feather the throttle so that you're not accelerating harshly. The problem you've got with pedal assist, there's a lag on the pedals, and when it does kick in, it's quite aggressive. The other thing is when you come to a corner, if you need to maintain speed round the corner, you cannot pedal and turn a bike, especially the bike that I ride. All you're going to end up doing is hitting the pedals on the floor and falling off. Every time I'd come to a corner, I put my feet parallel and just use the thumb throttle just to take me round. So there's another huge argument there as to why this thumb throttle is such a big issue. It seems to me like e-bikes have hit the market, the government don't really know much about them, considering a 250 watt will peak well over that. Same with any bike, whatever that motor output is, it will always peak a lot higher. So the ruling there just, again, doesn't make any sense. But in the UK, it does appear that the government are now starting to pay attention. I think when e-bikes first came on the scene, they just tried to make it really hard for anyone to ride them. People would get bored with them, people would move on to other things, and they would sort of phase out. But I think where they've messed up is they're trying to push for electric cars and electric vehicles. And I think people are only taking that sort of advice and then using that in their own worlds in terms of cheaper modes of transport like e-bikes. So for 2024, so it appears the government have had to take notice and they're now looking at changing the ruling on e-bike. Now the two rules they're looking to change is the motor output and the throttle assist. So they're looking to change to the law. You can now ride an e-bike with a motor up to 500 watts, so they're doubling the power, which is great news. They're also looking to abolish the thumb throttle rule, and they're now saying that the thumb throttle can assist you up to the 15.5 mile an hour, which is brilliant, makes complete sense. I don't know why they didn't do that in the first place. Now, as it stands at the point of making this video, these are the only two things that have been mentioned at the moment. There's a couple of other things that they're talking about that may have to be compulsory to reach these laws. One of which is to wear a helmet. I completely agree with. I think anyone that's riding on a road, anyone that's riding anything that's faster than a walking pace, you'd kind of be stupid not to wear a helmet. So I can't see that being an issue. Then there's talk about registration of the bike, possibly insurance on the bike as well. And this kind of makes me think, is the government doing this for our benefit? Or is the government doing it for its own benefit? And what I mean by that is, if you know how to register your e-bike, what does that mean for the government? Of course, a little bit more money for them, isn't it? as well as the insurance. From making these changes, the government can then benefit financially and a lot of other ways. Now, this is only my view. I'm not saying this is 100% factual. This is just the way that I see the government being run at the moment, the way the UK is. I wouldn't put it past them. I'm not saying this is 100% factual. This is just my opinion. I would be interested to know your opinion, so drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Now, there are some other little reports around online saying that if you now get to ride a higher powered e-bike, then you may have to sit some sort of testing to be able to ride it. Now, this bit, again, I don't really agree with. In the UK, to ride a moped, you'd have to sit a CBT test. This allows you then to ride up to a 50cc moped, which is around 4 horsepower. Putting that in perspective of an e-bike, a 500 watt e-bike, you're looking about 0.7 horsepower. Can't really see that you'd need to sit a test for something as little horsepower as that. Again, whether this is some sort of money-making scheme from the government, whether they're just trying to cover themselves, which I don't deny. I get it, they have to cover themselves. There are going to be people out there that are going to abuse this. I completely understand that. But I think testing people to ride a very low-powered e-bike is a bit insane. Now, I don't want this video just to be all about hating on the government and they're not doing enough. I think it's great they're now starting to listen to the community, they're starting to listen to the people in the UK, and they actually realise now that these e-bikes and e-vehicles are going to be the future. There's no doubt about it. Just worry that giving us that little bit more in terms of power and use of the throttle comes at a cost of then having to insure it, road register it, and all these things come at a cost. Why would you do that for such a low powered e-bike when I could easily go out and do a CBT and get a 50cc moped? And later in this video we're going to be taking out the Surron, because I get a lot of questions on where you can and cannot ride these things. I've made a few videos on it before, but as we're talking about the topic of e-bikes and the law on the e-bikes, it's one of the most common questions that I get asked personally through Instagram and YouTube. Okay, that's enough waffle on the pedal assisted e-bike. Let's head back, let's go and get the Surron out, and let's take that for a rip. And let's get into a few topics based around the law and the Surron. Ah, that is much better. Okay, so if you subscribe to my channel, this is probably what you're here for, is the Surron content. And something that I get asked all the time, whether it be through YouTube or Instagram or even just people that I meet out when I'm riding, and that's where you can and cannot ride your Surron or Talaria or any other sort of high-powered e-bike in its class. I mentioned Surron and Talaria, they are the main two. Obviously there's loads of other ones available, but concentrating on these bikes. So with these bikes you've got two main categories. You've got an off-road version and a road legal version. I'll quickly run through the road legal version. It is very simple and it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a road legal version of this bike. It comes with all the necessary documents, it comes with a number plate, it comes with headlights, it comes with your indicators, everything you need to ride on the road. In order to ride it on the road in the UK, you are going to need a CBT. It's a compulsory test, you can't fail it, it's just basic training, and you will need to be over the age of 16 in order to be able to do the training and then ride the bike. You can then ride that in the exact same place as you can a moped, so you can't go on motorways and things like that. But yeah, it's basically classed exactly the same as a moped. We then move on to the off-road version, which is exactly what I've got here. I've owned mine for just over a year and a half now. And like I was saying, apart from people wanting to know about the spec of the bike, how far it can go, how long it takes to charge, how fast it is, one of the big things is, well, is it road legal? No, it's not. Okay, so where can you ride these things? So I've always followed the rule of thumb that you can ride these things on private property as long as you've got the landowner's permission. These things are built for off-road, so most of the time you are going to be riding off-road, i.e. fields like this one. And like I said, I've always looked to get the landowner's permission before I ride in there. As you probably know, the police do not like Surrons and Talarias, especially where I live. There's a huge clamp down on them. I know people that personally had them confiscated and crushed. The police will do whatever they can to take this thing off you and destroy it. What I've since found out, the rule I follow is probably quite a good rule to follow, but as it happens, I can ride in this field, I could ride in the field over there, I could ride the following field, any of these fields. I don't need anyone's permission to do this. And if you're like me, you're probably thinking, well, how's that even possible? You're riding on someone's property. And in the UK, that would be classed as trespass. But what's been highlighted to me recently is actually trespassing isn't a criminal offence. It's not a police matter. I can legally ride through all of these fields. I guess then if the owners were to call the police, you'd then be looking at questioning my style of riding. What am I doing? Who am I with? Am I up to no good? Am I destroying his property? Am I riding through crops? It then come down to a loss of earnings. Have I physically gone in there and destroyed crops that he can then not go on to sell? Then we start to get to the legal part. But as it stands, physically riding through that field, causing no harm, no distress, is legal. Now, I know all the haters are now going to jump in the comments and be like, oh, you've just ridden through a field and now you're riding on a road. I'm riding on a private road. All these fields do link up privately to a big estate. Fortunately for me, I've lived here long enough and I do have the owner's permissions to ride through the fields and these private roads. Now, I do have to cover myself here. If you are watching this video, I'm not saying it's absolutely fine, just go and tear through people's fields. You're not going to get in trouble. You probably will. If people can then prove that you are causing any sort of distress, like I said, loss of earnings, you're destroying crops, things like that, 100%, yeah, you are going to get yourself in trouble. But yeah, like I was saying, the rule that I follow is generally to get the landowner's permission. That way you know you're not upsetting anyone. Also, you don't have that worry that they are going to call the police and they are going to prosecute you for something other than trespassing. So generally it's a pretty decent rule to follow. I just wanted to highlight to people because I found it quite amazing that legally I was allowed to do that. The other point that I'd really like to bring up that regards to Surron and these new laws coming in, and just e-bike laws in general, is the fact that I know this is way faster than the legal limit. I know that. So the motor's sort of 10 times the legal limit. I get that. The top speed, you know, you can reach speed 60, 70 mile an hour on one of these with the correct amount of tuning. But I think a topic there for discussion is, if the government are now going to bring in a ruling that you can use the throttle up to 15.5 mile an hour, why could we not have a limiter put onto the bike in a certain mode to restrict these down to the 15.5 mile an hour? Because in my eyes, riding one of these at any speed is way safer than riding a push bike. I'd say these bikes are much better equipped than your pedal assisted bikes anyway. We've got bigger wheels, we've got better brakes, they're far more superior. And I know what people are going to say, oh yeah, but it's the torque settings. And I've had this previously in other comments, like, oh, you know, it's the torque. But with my particular Surron, I have an app on my phone that I can adjust all of my settings. I can put a limiter on this to limit me to any mile an hour that I choose. I also have torque settings on here as well. So I'd be really interested to see later down the line whether the government bring in something like that. And yes, I do understand that people are going to abuse that. Just because you got the setting, they're not going to stick to it. They are going to go as fast as they possibly can. But this is no different to cars. You know, you've got smaller engine cars, you've got bigger engine cars. The bigger engine cars can get to 0 to 60 a lot quicker than the smaller engine cars, so they've got a lot more torque to them. Their top speed is a lot faster than the smaller engine cars, but you all have to abide to a speed limit. So why couldn't that be implemented into the e-bike world? It can be policed in exactly the same way as speed limits. You could have a function on your app that would almost act like a bit of a black box, so if anyone was to get into an accident or anything was to happen, you'd have to provide the data log from the app to show the speed that you're doing. This is all available at the moment. The app that I currently run shows a data log of exactly from GPS where I've been. It tells me all of my output, my top speed, average speed. The technology is already there. And the only one real downside I can see to this is people are just going to abuse it. But surely that's the same with absolutely everything in life. Cars, vehicles, you know, medicine, drugs. Whatever we create in this world, people are going to go out and abuse it. Of course they will. So yeah, just to sum this video up, I think it's great that the government are now listening to the community, to the public in the UK. Whether they're doing it for our gain or their gain, I'm a little bit undecided at the moment. But at least things are starting to move in the right direction. But I'm going to finish this video there then, guys. I'd love to know what you guys think, because I do think this is a really interesting topic. Whether you like e-bikes, whether you like Sur-Rons and high-powered bikes like this, or whether you're totally against them, I do think there's quite an interesting topic here. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It massively helps my channel out. And it also gives me a good indication of the sorts of videos that you guys like watching. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. But as always, thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.